House will stand at ease until 10:15. The House will stand at ease until 10:15.
convening having arrived, all members will please take their seats. All members of this House will please report to the floor and take your seats. The clerk will ring the bell. All members will please report to the floor and take your seats. We're going to have the morning roll call. All members present will please vote green to signify their presence in the chamber, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. Doorkeepers will please close the doors and keep them closed. Well, good morning. That was weak. I said good morning. It's Friday. Did everybody get their plans canceled for tonight? If you need plans tomorrow, you can come to Blue Ridge, Georgia and see 2 or 3 inches of snow or more. So I'll give you a list of restaurants and other places to go when you get up there. Spend money. We're going to begin our day with scripture reading and prayer by the chaplain, after which we will pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. Our chaplain this morning will be introduced by the gentleman from the 9th House District, Representative Will Wade. Representative Wade.
Thank you, Speaker. Colleagues, good morning. I have the honor and privilege today to introduce to you a personal friend, one of my dad's favorite students, and the pastor of Silver City Baptist Church that's back home in my district. This guy was one of my biggest heroes when I was a youngster because he was the biggest, strongest football player on our team. And he'll tell you he was mean back then, but he was kind to me as one of his teachers, my dad's great students. And I'll tell you, this is especially special for me and my community because today, 1 year ago, this is the gentleman that I called on that my mother and father wanted to help us celebrate the life of my dad. And he has been a rock for us and always been helpful. And I hope you will listen to him today because he will speak truth from the heart. It's my honor and privilege, Pastor Russell Burton.
Let me say, certainly I consider it a great honor and a privilege to stand before you today. I would be remiss if I didn't make mention of Will's father, Brother Roy Wade, who was my 5th grade school teacher. This was a man that was a giant of a man, a 6'8", boisterous voice carried throughout the classroom, but one of the gentlest, most loving, compassionate men that I've ever met. He made a huge impression upon my life. Here, brothers and sisters and colleagues, I don't have anything new to tell you this morning, just to remind us of some things of old. In the 10th chapter of the Gospel of Luke, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ was asked a question by a lawyer. And the lawyer asked him this: He said, "What can I do to inherit eternal life?" And Jesus said unto him, "What is written in the law? How do you read it?" And he answered, saying, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy strength, with all thy mind, and thy neighbor as thyself." And Jesus answered and said, "Thou hast answered right. This do, and thou shalt live eternally." But he, willing to justify himself, said unto Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Friends and colleagues, I've come to ask you this morning with an appeal from my heart for us to define who is our neighbor. So often we think of our neighbor as the person that lives down the road from us, or maybe a family member that we're close to, maybe someone in our community. But our neighbor is much more than the people that we associate with and the people that live down the road from us. There are people that look different than we do and think different than we do and may have different beliefs than we do. But brothers and sisters, we are commanded to love. The greatest commandments are to love the Lord thy God with all of our heart, all of our soul, our strength, and our mind, and to love our neighbor as ourselves. We're living in a day and an age where that brotherly love, that companionship, those relationships, the connection that we've had so often, we have no longer. We live in such a fast-paced society, and it seems like we've lost the value of relationships. I can't pretend this morning to tell you what somebody from Savannah, Georgia feels like or thinks, or someone from the inner city, and me being from North Georgia. But what I can do is sit down with my brother and my sister, and I can have conversation and find out who they are and have that connection. The Lord Jesus began to tell a parable about a man who left Jerusalem and went down to Jericho, and on his trip he was mugged and beaten and left half dead on the side of the road. And the Bible said that there was a priest that came by and looked upon him and passed by on the other side. And maybe that priest thought to himself he didn't have time. Maybe that priest thought to himself and reasoned within himself, I might get dirty, or I might mess up my fine linen garment. And there also came a Levite, a man whose job was to take care of the things in the temple. And he also came and looked upon him and passed by on the other side of the road. But oh, thank God this morning, there was a man there the Bible calls a Samaritan. And that Samaritan is a representation of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. He is a representation of the love that Christ brings into our heart. For when he saw him, he was moved with compassion. And oh, brothers and sisters, I know we feel compassionate, or we feel passionate about so many issues, and that's well and good. But oh, we've got to learn how to have compassion on one another. How to truly love an individual as the creation of God. We're more than just a demographic. We're more than just a statistic or a voter block. We're all created with a capacity to love and the need to be loved. And aren't you glad that in this parable, this man had compassion on him and began to pour oil and wine upon his wounds. Brothers and sisters, in the day and age that we live, it seems like our society is coming unraveled. And it is the love of God and our love for each other that hold our society together. And let us be of those that are of the household of faith. Pour in the oil and the wine, the love of God and the mercy of God. And let us see our brother as a human that needs love and help and compassion. And oh, how I appeal to you this morning. You as leaders and me as a minister of the gospel, let us go out into the world and find the unlovable and love them with the love of Christ. And in so doing, we can change this world. Dr. Martin Luther King, he made this statement. He said, I have decided to follow love. He said, hate is too heavy a burden to bear. And oh, my dear brothers and sisters, we'll never be more like God than when we love one another. And let me say this with all confidence, with all humility. I can tell you this morning that I love you and I love the people of this state. And I thank you for your service. And I just wanted to come and encourage you for just a little while. May we go to the Lord in prayer. Dear Lord and Heavenly Father God, as we come to you in the most precious name of Jesus, God, I thank you for these men and women that are gathered here today to do the people's business. God, I thank you, Lord, that there's no power but what is ordained of God. And Father, I pray for them. I pray for our society. God, that we might love one another. God, hatred and all this negativity has stifled us as a people. But Lord, let us find that cause that is greater than ourselves. The call to love our brother and love our sister. And God, those that, Lord, are on the wayside, those that are broken, those that are wounded, may we show them love and mercy. And God, love is more than just a word. It is an action. It is a call to respond. And God, I'm thankful, Lord, you're able to do this in a people. God, we love you and we praise you and we thank you in Christ's name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Doorkeepers will unlock the doors. Members may greet the chaplain in the South Anteroom. And the chair recognizes Chairman Hogan, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Committee on Information and Audits has read the journal of the previous legislative day and found it to be correct. And furthermore, Mr. Speaker, what is happiness? It's nothing more than good health and a poor memory.
Chairman Hogan, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, reports that the journal of the previous legislative day has been read and found to be correct. Is there any objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none and the journal is confirmed. The clerk will read the resolution establishing the order of business for the day.
Mr. Burns, on the 59th, moves following be establishes the order of business during the first part of the period. Unanimous consents. Introduction of bills and resolutions, first reading and reference of House bills and resolutions, second reading of bills and resolutions, reports of standing committees, third reading and passage of uncontested local bills and resolutions, first reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions, morning orders.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution establishing the order of business for the day. The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. First reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 1551 by Representative Campbell, the 131st bill being titled an act to amend an act providing for a homestead exemption from Pike County School District ad valorem taxation.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1552 by Representative Jackson, the 64th, Bazemore, the 63rd, Schofield, the 60th, Bruce, the 61st, Hobson, the 153rd, and others. Bill being titled an act to create the Union City Public Facilities
Intergovernmental coordination.
Senate Bill 333 by Senator Albers of 56, Dugan of the 30th, Hatchett of the 50th, Robertson of the 29th, and Gooch of the 51st, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Part 1A of Article 7 of Chapter 3 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to non-public post-secondary education institutions.
Higher education.
Senate Bill 562 by Senator Mullis, the 53rd, Gooch of the 51st, Hatchett of the 50th, Walker of the 20th, Goodman of the 8th, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 3 of Chapter 5 of Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general authority, duties, and procedures.
Governmental affairs.
Senate Resolution 565 by Senator Anna Varte of the 31st, Dugan of the 30th, Mullis of the 53rd, Huffstetler of the 52nd, and Brass of the 28th. A resolution designated Northwest Georgia Logistics
Transportation.
Corridor. That completes first readers.
Second reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 868 by Representative McDonald of the 26th, Holmes of the 129th, Estration of the 104th, Rich of the 97th, Mitchell of the 88th, and others. A bill relating to holidays and observances. House Bill 1535 by Representative Taylor of the 173rd and Campbell of the 171st. A bill to amend an act to create the Grady County Lake Authority. House Bill 1536 by Representative Green of the 151st, Smith of the 134th, Smith of the 133rd, and Chokas of the 138th. The bill to amend an act to create the Lower Chattahoochee Regional Transportation Authority. House Bill 1537 by Representative Seabaugh of the 34th, Setzer of the 35th, Earhart of the 36th, Williams of the 37th, Parsons of the 44th, and others. A bill to amend an act creating the State Court of Cobb County. House Bill 1538 by Representative Nolowitz of the 42nd, Allen of the 40th, Jones of the 53rd, Smith of the 41st, Thomas of the 39th, and others. A bill to amend an act creating a new charter for the city of Smyrna. House Bill 1539 by Representative Burchett of the 176th, Corbett of the 174th, and Sains of the 180th. A bill to amend an act to create the Waycross Convention and Visitors Bureau Authority. House Bill 1540 by Representative Allen of the 40th, Thomas of the 39th, Nolowitz of the 42nd, Seabaugh of the 34th, Smith of the 41st, and others. A bill to amend an act consolidating the offices of Tax Collector and Tax Receiver into the Office of Tax Commissioner of Cobb County. House Bill 1541 by Representative Allen of the 40th, Thomas of the 39th, and Nolowitz of the 42nd, Seabaugh of the 34th, Smith of the 41st, and others. A bill to amend an act changing the compensation of the clerk of the Superior Court, the sheriff, and the judge of the Probate Court of Cobb County from the fee system to the salary system. House Bill 1542 by Representative Mallow of the 163rd, Oliver of the 82nd, Jackson of the 165th, Neal of the 74th, Hutchinson of the 107th. A bill relating to procedure for sentencing and imposition of punishment and grants of pardons, paroles, and other relief. House Bill 1543 by Representative Smith of the 18th, Gunter of the 8th, Leverett of the 33rd, a bill relating to criminal procedure and driver's licenses. House Bill 1544 by Representative Evans of the 57th, Dickey of the 140th, Bentley of the 139th, Evans of the 83rd, and Blackman of the 146th, a bill relating to needs-based financial aid program. House Bill 1545 by Representative Gamble of the 15th, Stevens of the 164th, Fry of the 118th, Gunter of the 8th, a bill relating to excise tax on rooms, lodging, and accommodations. House Bill 1546 by Representative Evans of the 57th, Anulowitz of the 42nd, Fry of the 118th, Maynard of the 56th, Hitchens of the 161st, a bill relating to development of transportation plans, public hearings, approval of plans by board, and promulgation of rules and regulations by the Department of Transportation. House Bill 1547 by Representative Hatchett of the 150th, England of the 116th, Burns of the 159th, Knight of the 130th, Houston of the 170th, a bill relating to health. House Bill 1548 by Representative Leverett of the 33rd, a bill relating to soil amendments. House Bill 1549 by Representative Bodie of the 62nd, McLaurin of the 51st, Kendrick of the 93rd, Alexander of the 66th, Gilliard of the 162nd, and others. A bill relating to identification cards for persons without driver's licenses. House Bill 1550 by Representative Stevens of the 164th, a bill to amend an act to create a Board of Elections and Registration of Bryan County. House Bill 1553 by Representative Crowe of the 110th, Collins of the 68th, Williams of the 145th, Lumsden of the 12th, Smith of the 18th, and others. A bill relating to the Department of Corrections. House Bill 1554 by Representative Sains of the 180th, Cooper of the 43rd, Dempsey of the 13th, Maynard of the 56th, and Irwin of the 28th. A bill relating to the Department of Public Health. House Resolution 936 by Representative Bazemore of the 63rd, Kennard of the 102nd, Beverly of the 143rd, and Bruce of the 61st. A resolution urging the Georgia Department of Transportation to study safety and accidents relating to vehicle merging and to consider installing yield signs upon certain merging highways. House Resolution 937 by Representative Deloach of the 167th, a resolution honoring the life and memory of Deputy Sheldon Gordon Whiteman, dedicating a road in his memory. House Resolution 938 by Representative Hawkins of the 27th, Dublick of the 29th, Donahue of the 30th, a resolution recognizing Representative Carl Rogers and dedicating a bridge in his honor. House Resolution 939 by Representative Gunter of the 8th, a resolution honoring the life of Reverend James Jimmy Richard Rogers Sr. and dedicating a bridge in his memory. House Resolution 940 by Representative Estration of the 104th, a resolution honoring the life of Judge Emily Pate Powell and dedicating an intersection in her memory. House Resolution 941 by Representative Gilliard of the 162nd, Stevens of the 164th, Mallett of the 163rd, Hitchens of the 161st, Jackson of the 165th, and others. A resolution recognizing Mr. Doug Weathers and dedicating an interchange in his honor. House Resolution 942 by Representative Gilliard of the 162nd, Stevens of the 164th, Mallow of the 163rd, Hitchens of the 161st, Jackson of the 165th, and others. A resolution recognizing Mr. Lawrence Hutchins Jr. and dedicating a bridge in his honor. House Resolution 943 by Representative Bennett of the 94th, Beverly of the 143rd, Wilkerson of the 38th, Schofield of the 60th, Hawkins of the 27th, and others. A resolution creating the House Healthy Food Retail Study Committee to investigate the lack of access to fresh, healthy food in certain rural and urban areas in Georgia. Senate Bill 345 by Senator Mollis of the 53rd, Hatchett of the 50th, Anderson of the 24th, Anna Navarte of the 31st, Dixon of the 45th, and others. A bill relating to general provisions regarding state government. Senate Bill 379 by Senator Strickland of the 17th, Duggan of the 30th, Thompson of the 14th, Miller of the 49th, Jones of the 25th, and others. A bill relating to vocational, technical, and adult education. Senate Bill 381 by Senator Robertson of the 29th, Albers of the 56th, Kennedy of the 18th, Payne of the 54th, Hickman of the 4th, and others. A bill relating to penalties for violating Code Sections 16.6.9 through 16.6.12. Senate Bill 393 by Senator Dolezal of the 27th, Miller of the 49th, Strickland of the 17th, Duggan of the 30th, Burke of the 11th, and others. A bill relating to public utilities and public transportation. Senate Bill 441 by Senator Hatchett of the 50th, Gooch of the 51st, Miller of the 49th, Goodman of the 8th, Butler of the 55th, and others. A bill relating to courts in general. Through second readers.
Reports of standing committees, the clerk will read.
Representative Newton of the 123rd District, Chairman of the Special Committee on Access to Quality Health Care, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Access to Quality Health Care is under consideration. The following bills of the House has instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 1547 do pass. House Bill 1519 do pass by substitute, respectfully submitted. Representative Newton of the 123rd District, Chairman. Representative Robert Dickey, the 140th District, Chairman on Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs has had under consideration the following bills of the House. It's instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 1496 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 1522 do pass, respectfully submitted. Representative Robert Dickey, the 140th District, Chairman. Representative Terry England of the 116th District, Chairman of the Committee on Appropriations, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Appropriations has had under consideration the following bills and resolutions of the House. It's instructed me to report the same back to the House. The following recommendation. House for Resolution 593 do pass by committee substitute. House for Resolution 626 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 911 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted. Representative Terry England of the 116th District, Chairman. Representative Hawkins of the 27th District, Chairman on Committee on Budget and Fiscal Affairs Oversight, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Budget and Fiscal Affairs Oversight has had under consideration the following resolutions of the House. It's instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Resolution 894 do pass. House Resolution 842 do pass by committee substitute, respectfully submitted. Representative Hawkins of the 27th District, Chairman. Representative Carpenter of the 4th District, Chairman of the Committee on Creative Arts and Entertainment, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Creative Arts and Entertainment has had under consideration the following bills and resolutions of the House and Senate and has instructed me to report the same back to the House with following recommendations. House Bill 516, do pass. Senate Resolution 477, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Carpenter of the 4th District, Chairman. Representative Chris Irwin of the 28th District, Vice Chairman of the Committee on Education, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Education has had under consideration the following bills of the House and instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 1482, do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 1474, do pass. House Bill 1184, do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 1283, do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Chris Irwin of the 28th District, Vice Chairman. Representative Stan Gunther of the 8th District, Chairman of the Special Committee on Election Integrity, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Special Committee on Election Integrity has had under consideration the following bill of the House. It's instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendation. House Bill 1464, do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Stan Gunter of the 8th District, Chairman. Representative Trey Rhodes of the 120th District, Chairman of the Committee on Game, Fish, and Parks, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Game, Fish, and Parks has had under consideration the following bills to the House and the Senate and instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Resolution 822, do pass by committee substitute. Senate Bill 469, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Trey Rose of the 120th District, Chairman. Representative Darlene Taylor, 173rd District, Chairman of the Committee on Governmental Affairs, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Governmental Affairs has had under consideration the following bills of the House. It's instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 923, do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Darlene Taylor of the 173rd District, Chairman. Representative Sharon Cooper of the 43rd District, Chairman of the Committee on Health and Human Services, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Health and Human Services had under consideration the following bills of the House. It's instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 1404, do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 1484, do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Sharon Cooper, the 43rd District, Chairman. Representative Martin of the 49th District, Chairman of the Committee on Higher Education, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Higher Education has had under consideration the following bill of the House. Instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 1515, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Martin of the 49th District, Chairman. Representative Petrie of the 166th District, Chairman of the Committee on Human Relations and Aging, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Human Relations and Aging has had under consideration the following bill of the House. Instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendation. House Bill 1531, do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Petrie of the 166th District, Chairman. Representative Jan Tankersley of the 160th District, Chairman of the Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination and Locals, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination and Locals had under consideration the following bills of the House. This instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 1418, do pass. House Bill 1488, do pass. House Bill 1495, do pass. House Bill 1509, do pass. House Bill 1510, do pass. House Bill 1529, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Jan Tankersley, the 160th District, Chairman. Representative Estration of the 104th District, Chairman of the Committee on Judiciary, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Judiciary has had under consideration the following bills of the House. It's instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 1068, do pass. House Bill 1390, do pass by substitute. House Bill 1527, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Estration of the 104th District, Chairman. Representative John Corbett of the 174th District, Chairman of the Committee on Motor Vehicles, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Motor Vehicles has had under consideration the following bills of the House. Instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 1528, do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative John Corbett of the 174th District, Chairman. Representative Vance Smith of the 133rd District, Chairman of the Committee on Natural Resources and Environment, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Natural Resources and Environment has had on consideration the following bill of the House. Instructed me to report same back to the House the following recommendations. House Bill 1479 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Van Smith of the 133rd District, Vice Chairman. Representative Jay Collins, the 68th District Chairman of the Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security has had on consideration the following bill of the House and has instructed me to report same back to the House the following recommendations. House Bill 830 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Jay Collins of the 68th District Chairman. Representative Rick Jaspers of the 11th District Chairman of the Committee on Transportation submitted the following report. Speaker, your Committee on Transportation has had on consideration the following resolution of the House and instructed me to report the same back to the House the following recommendation. House Resolution 820 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Rick Jaspers of the 11th District Chairman. Representative Shaw Blackman of the 146th District Chairman of the Committee on Ways and Means submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Ways and Means has had on consideration the following bills of the House. Instructed me to report same back to the House the following recommendations. House Bill 304 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 1041 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 1053 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 1291 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 1330 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 424 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Shaw Blackman of the 146th District Chairman. Representative Newton of the 123rd District Chairman of the Special Committee on Access to Quality Health Care submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Special Committee on Access to Quality Health Care has had on consideration the following resolution of the House. It's instructed me to report same back to the House the following recommendation. House Bill 1533 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Newton of the 123rd District Chairman. That completes the reading of the reports of standing committees. Yeah.
This House will come to order. The chair is going to ask all members to please take your seats. We have some very special guests that we're going to honor appropriately, or try to. All members will please be seated. The clerk will read House Resolution 976. You do now.
House Resolution 976 by Representative Ralston the 7th and Olowitz of the 42nd, Jones of the 47th, Burns of the 159th, and Beverly of the 143rd. A resolution congratulating the Atlanta Braves and inviting them to be recognized by the House of Representatives and for other purposes. Whereas on November 2nd, 2021, the Atlanta Braves claimed their first World Series title since 1995 after shutting down the Houston Astros 7-0, finishing the series with 4 wins and 2 losses. And whereas after securing an early lead, the Braves utilized their superior pitching and landed numerous home runs in order to close out the game, allowing the Astros only 6 hits and 3 at-bats with runners in scoring position. And whereas Jorge Soler was named the 2021 World Series MVP for his outstanding performance, joining the ranks of Hank Aaron, Lonnie Smith, and Ryan Klesko. And whereas the victory gives the city of Atlanta its first major professional sports league championship title since the Atlanta United won the MLS Cup in 2018, and whereas this phenomenal performance of the team is a clear indication of the outstanding athletic ability, dedication, hard work, and unity of purpose and spirit of each member of the team. And whereas this magnificent team earned its well-deserved reputation for excellence by performing with courage and precision over the months of training and competition, it is abundantly proper to call them champions. Now therefore, be it resolved by the House of Representatives that the member of this body congratulate the Atlanta Braves for winning the 2021 World Series title, extends sincere best wishes for continued success on the field and beyond. Be it further resolved that the Clerk of the House of the Representatives is authorized and directed to make appropriate copies of this resolution available for distribution to the public and the press.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I think it's only fitting that we celebrate the return of baseball today with having members of the executive leadership of the Atlanta Braves with us. We'd like to have had some of the players and coaches, but they got to get ready to play ball now. So they've headed out. But you know, last year was an amazing year in sports in Georgia, and we've honored Coach Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs, and today we're honoring our Atlanta Braves because they belong to every Georgian, and we're just very, very proud of last year's success. I still remember that third out. That was a great World Series, and a great second half of the season. Kind of do without that first half, but we're honored to have with us today the co-CEOs of the Braves, Mike Plant and Derek Schiller, and they have been friends of ours for a long time, and we're just delighted to have them here. I'm going to recognize at this time for a few words the CEO of the world champion Atlanta Braves, Mike Plant.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So on behalf of Derek and everyone in our entire organization, it's our privilege and honor to be with you here today, and obviously to bring that World Championship trophy. It is a coveted worldwide recognition of excellence. We strive for it every single year. Every member of this House in the state of Georgia, as the speaker said, has been part of our journey. We were proud to bring 9 million people last year to the Battery in Truist Park and have a global television audience watch us win this World Championship. We have done a lot, we believe, in the last 8 years to build and develop Truist Park and the Battery and create an incredible economic engine that is now rivaled around the world. We've had 150 teams from all over the world come and see what we've done to change the landscape of professional sports, not just focus on a sports venue anymore, but to create an incredible activation and high energy center. We have 3 Fortune 500 companies now that have their headquarters there and have really changed the landscape of Cobb County and the state of Georgia. So we appreciate your support. I can assure you that Derek and I, we are probably as happy as anyone in this room that we are going to have opening day at Truist Park on April 7th, and that we are going to once again go after winning this trophy and bringing it back to the state of Georgia. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate it. Let's get
I told Mike Plant and Derek Schiller there's a bill on today's calendar to compel them to re-sign Freddie Freeman. All right, we're going on now to the local calendar. Third reading and passage of uncontested local bills. If there is no objection, we will vote on the local calendar as a whole with a recorded vote. Hearing none, it is so ordered. The clerk will read the local calendar.
House Bill 1418 by Representative Smiley, the 135th. Columbus, Muskogee County. House Bill 1488 by Representative Campbell, the 171st City of Pelham. House Bill 1495 by Representative Dukes, the 154th Seminole County. House Bill 1509 by Representative Gilliard to the 162nd Chatham County. House Bill 1510 by Representative Gilliard to the 162nd Chatham County. House Bill 1529 by Representative Williams to the 168th Atlantic Judicial Circuit.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on the local calendar? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which was favorable to the passage of the bills? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall these bills now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bills on the local calendar will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of the bills on the local calendar, the ayes are 153. The nays are 1. These bills, having received the requisite constitutional majority, are therefore passed. All right, we're now going on to morning orders. House will come to order. House will come to order. We've got a lot of stuff on the rules calendar today. So I'm going to limit morning orders strictly to 1 minute each. Chair recognizes Chairman Parsons for a morning order.
Thank you, Speaker. I know I've only got a minute. I want to speak just for a minute about, we see a lot about gasoline prices, especially on social media. Just want to speak about that for a minute. During my last 3 years with the 335th Signal Unit down in East Point, I was the intelligence NCO, so I got a pretty good glimpse into misinformation coming from different places around the world. And I see a lot of misinformation on the internet, especially social media. But in particular, I just want to mention The Keystone Pipeline, you know, for your information or anybody might want to know, and I see a lot of misinformation about this on social media, the Keystone Pipeline was finished several years ago. It's operational, continues to operate. The Keystone XL pipeline is not finished. I think it's less than 8%, less than 10%. I think 8% completed. So I see social media posts about we need to reopen it, complete it. It's not going to be that easy. Only 8% complete. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Bruce for a morning order.
Good morning, everyone. I want to thank Chris McCrary, Cash Trivet, and Andrew Long for purchasing these books. You have them on your desk in your office. This is born out of a mother who had breast cancer, and her daughter didn't understand why she was losing her hair. So she and the daughter wrote a book together called No Hair, Don't Care. And we're going to use the money that comes from this book to create a scholarship for the little girl. Unfortunately, the mother passed away. And the little girl is going to be in the ante room to sign the books if you want, or to take a picture with you. But we wanted to just share this with you. And we ask that you take it to your local library or to a school or somewhere and share it, so that if there's another child somewhere that's going through the same thing, that they will be able to get the benefit of this book. So thank you. The grandmother's there as well as the little girl. They won't let them both in the ante room, but the little girl will be there if you want to meet her. Thank you so much.
Chair recognizes Representative Cantrell for a morning order.
Does everyone know what time it is this weekend? It's favorite weekend of the year. We get to spring forward. And she came appropriately attired. She knows what time it is. I'm here with you. All right. So last year, we passed legislation that could make this year's spring forward the last one ever. We could lock the clock and never change time again, but it's up to the Congress to do so. There are two bills in our Congress right now. H.R. 69 has 33 sponsors. It's bipartisan. So I want to encourage you to encourage your congressman to support this bill. 3 Georgia congressmen are on that bill. And then Senate Bill 623 has 17 sponsors. It's also bipartisan. Neither one of our senators are on that bill yet. I encourage you to reach out. I've reached out to them multiple times. Some of you may have a little more influence on them than I do, and I would encourage you encouraging them. And let's lock the clock forever in Georgia and the surrounding states. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Hutchinson for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. Today I bring to you Alyssa. Alyssa is a kind-hearted and compassionate girl who loves to help others. She enjoys spending time with her friends, swimming, skating, singing, and playing games like Monopoly. She enjoys going to church, participating in church activities, and the Falcons are her favorite team. Whoever adopts Alyssa would have to support her relationship with her sibling, who is also placed for adoption in Georgia. Colleagues, during Women's History Month, imagine what this little girl can do as an adult and as a woman in Georgia. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Cannon for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, members. I rise today to discuss Music in Our Schools Month. It is the entire month of March. And as many of you may know, the way that children learn is not always from a textbook, not always from a PowerPoint. Sometimes it's from a song. Sometimes it's from a performance evaluation. So the official idea is that it is the biggest school chorus in the world every March. So I ask that you just reach out to your local public schools and see how they're doing with Music in Our Schools Month, and hopefully in the years to come we'll be able to have some at the Capitol. Thank you so much.
Chair recognizes Representative Wade for a morning order.
Thank you, Speaker. Colleagues, I'd ask you to rise to recognize and celebrate the life of a very amazing member of my community. Mr. Ernest Paul Stringer, known as Paul around town, passed away peacefully on March 2nd. Paul was a native and lifelong resident of Lumpkin County, where he attended North Georgia College and was in the Corps Cadets. And I was told to say this because he knew Buddy DeLoach when Buddy was a young man. So he was also on the rifle team, played baseball, a phenomenal human being, and I just ask that you give a moment of silence to recognize his life and contributions to his community. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. There you go.
The clerk will read the caption to a group of privilege resolutions.
Honoring the life and memory of Mike Deckel. Recognizing June 6, 2022 as Women's Golf Day. Recognizing June 12, 2022 as Women's Veterans Day. Commending and congratulating Marcus Rashad Harris. Commending and congratulating Ethan Bishop Martin. Recognizing and commending Mike Atkins. Commending Shelley Smith Jones Elementary School's 2022 Teacher of the Year. Commending Matthew Bass Bremen Middle School's 2022 Teacher of the Year. Commending James Lipscomb Bremen High School's 2022 Teacher of the Year. Commending Carla Coppett Bremen Academy's 2022 Teacher of the Year. Congratulating the Collins Hill High School football team for winning the 2021-2022 GHSA Class 7A State Football Championship. Recognizing and commending Pamela Dickerson in honor of Women's History Month 2022. Recognizing March 24th, 2022 as HPV Awareness Day at the State Capitol. Recognizing and commending Judith Elizabeth Arnold. Recognizing and commending Sarah Hall, recognizing and commending Scott Resmeyer, and for other purposes. That completes the reading of the privilege resolutions.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the privilege resolutions? Chair hears none, and the resolutions are adopted. We are now going on to the rules calendar. Going on to the rules calendar. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1452.
House Bill 1452 by Representative Leverett of the 33rd, to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 13A of Title 19 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to dating violence protective orders so as to revise the definition and to provide for related matters. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary and Non-Civil, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Chairman Gaines to present the bill.
Apparently, I need to work on my handwriting. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm proud to present House Bill 1452, cleanup language to address an issue we saw since last year. We passed protections for victims of dating violence to file a temporary protective order against their abuser. We've seen issues, including in my district, where last year the legislation allowed while they were dating or 6 months since they've been dating, but that has been an issue, so we've extended that to 12 months, and that's all this legislation does. Happy to answer any questions.
You do not have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the will.
I'm sorry, you do. You got a question or not? Chair recognizes Representative Rick Williams, for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I will.
Have you ever been the victim of a violent date?
I'm not.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the will.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 1452, the ayes are 156, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1409.
House Bill 1409 by Representative Werkheiser, the 157th, being entitled an act to amend Chapter 9 of Title 34 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to workers' compensation so as to change certain provisions related to workers' compensation benefits. This bill having referred to the Committee on Industry and Labor, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Chairman Werkheiser to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is an agency bill from the State Workers' Comp Board, which comes as a recommendation to them from the Workers' Comp Advisory Council. House Bill 1409 increases the maximum amount of benefits an employee can receive under workers' comp for temporary total disability to $725, which is a $50 increase. And the maximum amount of benefits for temporary partial disability to $483 per week, which is also a $50 increase. The maximum total compensation for a surviving spouse for an employee who died from injury in the workplace is increased $20,000 to the amount of $290,000. That is the bill. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
You do not have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask for your favorable consideration on 1409.
We have two members that wish to be heard on the bill. The chair recognizes Representative Stacey Evans to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning. I rise in favor of House Bill 1409, but also want to share with this body, this is pathetic, y'all. Georgia is 46th in the rates that we pay for workers' comp. 46th. We are adding $50 to the max that someone can get when they get hurt on the job. This rate that we pay right now, $675 as a max. That means a lot of people are getting less than this, is 60% of the statewide average of weekly wages in this state. Y'all, these are working people who do jobs that a lot of us in this room are not willing to do, some jobs that are very dangerous. And when they get hurt, no matter what their wage was, we say, this is the most that your time is worth. Maybe, if they're lucky, 60% of the statewide average. Now, almost every other state, and when I say almost every other state, I mean literally almost every other state, ties their max workers' comp rate to the average state wages, and they index it. They don't have to have their legislature come back and give them a piddly $50 here and $50 there. They don't have to beg like that. We're better than that. And I say this as the daughter, the granddaughter, and the niece of folks that spent their whole lives working in carpet mills, sticking their hands in and out of machines to get yarn, climbing under machines to fix them so that you and I can have this plush carpet to walk on. As the sister of a lineman who climbs up on utility poles to make sure that when we flip the switch, the light comes on. As the niece of a coal miner who climbed in and out to make sure that we had the energy that we needed? And there, but for the grace of God, go I. There, but for the grace of God, did our family not fall in hard times because somebody got hurt. It could have happened at any moment, and it happens to Georgians every day. And we talk a lot in here about wanting to support hardworking Georgians. This is not helping hardworking Georgians. This is insulting them. And so while I will be voting yes on this bill, I am sick that this is how we treat our folks. $675 is the max. Our neighbor to the north, Tennessee, $1,022. I'm not talking about what California does or New York. Tennessee, y'all. Red state. We can do better. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Walensky to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Speaker. I also speak to the bill. I wish I didn't have to go after Representative Evans because that was amazing, and I echo all that she said. I'll just fill in some gaps real quick in terms of some of y'all may not know what workers' comp is, but workers' comp is a federal law, and each state gets to decide how much is paid. Workers' comp occurs because it makes it where you can't sue your employer when hurt on the job. You can sue a third party, but not your employer, and that's where this steps in. And my biggest concern, it's not just about Georgia football, but when we ever say we're behind Alabama, we know something's wrong. And we're behind Alabama on this. We are only one of 2 states who don't index. That's where the average salary income in Georgia goes up, it gets raised. We haven't raised this in 3 years. That means our blue-collar employees, our employees who are getting hurt on the job, their income for when they get hurt hasn't gone up in several years, but we need to get ahead. By this raise that we're doing, we're still in the bottom 5 in the United States. We're in the bottom 5 of what we're paying workers who get hurt on the job, who do not have the ability to sue their company, because that's what we're doing here, and that's important. But in workers' comp, we pay people we're the 5th worst state in Georgia. And so I echo everything Representative Evans said, and I say this is a good bill because we're headed in the right direction. But we really need to catch up with other states. We are the #1 state for business, and we need to make sure now that we are also the #1 state for employees. Thank you, Speaker. I yield the will.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Wilson rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that while we're increasing the pay out here and the Advisory Council has asked for this bill, the Advisory Council asked that at a minimum we tie this to 67% of the average wages, and this is only 60%?
If the gentleman so states, I'm sure he has followed that. What purpose does Representative Maynor rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that the Georgia Workers' Comp Board should really have a physical therapist on it? And that way they would more readily be able to tell the state of Georgia what these rates should be and how workers can get back to work quicker.
Well, that's really not a bad idea, actually, Representative. Okay. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 1409. The ayes are 158, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1433.
House Bill 1433 by Representative Ballinger, the 23rd, and others to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 35, 6A, 11 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to advisory board created in membership relative to the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary and Non-Civil, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Chairman Ballinger to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a very simple bill brought on behalf of the CJCC. It simply updates the definition of one of the members of the Special Advisory Group. It also allows for parents as well as children who've been involved with DJJ to sit on the advisory board. And if we pass this legislation, it brings us into conformity with federal regs and laws, and it protects. We're subject to lose at least 20 to 25% of the grant if we don't bring it into conformity. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Do you yield for questions?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Representative Cannon to your left for a question.
Thank you. Do you yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us more about why we were out of compliance or out of uniformity?
It was just an update that the federal, the Congress had done. They had updated their definition of one of the positions, and so we needed to bring ours into conformance with that.
Okay, just to follow up, do you
Sure.
further yield? So when did that happen?
I'm not sure. It's within the last year. If there are no more questions.
There are no more questions.
I yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 1433. The ayes are 158, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 934.
House Bill 934 by Representative Leverett of the 33rd and others to be entitled an act to amend Part 1 of Article 5A of Chapter 8 of Title 48. The Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to Special District Mass Transportation Sales and Use Tax so as to provide for the maximum amount of time frame for the collection of such tax when an intergovernment agreement has been entered into. This bill having referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes the Chief Deputy Whip of the Majority Caucus, Representative Leverett, to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, it's my pleasure to present to you for your consideration House Bill 934 this morning. This bill amends the single county T-SPLOST statute. That is the Transportation Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax. It does not affect the regional T-SPLOST, which many of us are familiar with. It's just the single county T-SPLOST. About 40 counties currently have this throughout the state. Currently, the tax, if approved by the voters of the county, runs until a certain amount stated in the ballot question is collected, and then it ends. Under this bill, the single county T-SPLOST could run for a specific period of time, up to 5 years, as stated in the ballot question, if the county and the cities within that county have an intergovernmental agreement governing what projects the tax can be spent upon. And of course, they still have to be transportation projects, but this is a way just to specify what the money will be used for and make sure they've got consensus among the other jurisdictions. And this brings the single county T-SPLOST in line with every other SPLOST tax that I'm aware of where it was levied for a period of time. The bill does not diminish or take away any of the current guardrails that apply to the single county T-SPLOST, such as the intergovernmental agreement, such as the need for passing a resolution by the county to call the referendum. The voters have to approve the imposition of the tax in a referendum, and there also is a reporting obligation after the tax is imposed to make sure that the proceeds are being spent appropriately. This bill is not retroactive. It does not affect any of the current T-SPLOST. It would apply only once those run out if the counties were to levy a new one, or if a county that currently doesn't have a T-SPLOST levies one going forward after the effective date of this act. So it doesn't do anything to change those T-SPLOST that are currently in effect. It's just prospective in its operation. And I would ask that you please favorably consider this. It's supported by ACCG and GMA, and I think it puts another good tool in the toolbox for our counties and avoids the sort of flicking the light switch, which is frustrating to a lot of our local merchants, where the tax is imposed and then it's not imposed and then it gets reimposed and then it's not imposed again. So I would ask your favorable consideration, and we'll yield the well for questions.
Do you yield for questions?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman.
Chair recognizes the Minority Caucus Whip, Representative Wilkerson, for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Just for my understanding, in a regular SPLOST, not a T-SPLOST, if there are excess funds and you completed the projects, you can either, I believe, like a school system, can either buy down the millage rate or refund it back to taxpayers. In this case, is there any such mechanism, or would it just go toward building more roads or building whatever transit projects you're doing?
Under the amendment, it just simply provides you can levy for a period of time. I believe currently the SPLOST ends when a stated amount is collected and it's not available for applying to other kinds of expenditures or debt. Thank you for the question.
Do you further yield?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Chairman Carpenter to your right for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that it's very difficult on your local retailers when tax rates change midstream like this? And
Yes,
this
sir.
bill would seek to help keep uniformity for all your retailers so they know what to charge the consumer when they're coming to buy their products.
Absolutely, and thank you for that question. That's an excellent point. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will yield the well and ask your favorable consideration of House Bill 934.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Representative Singleton rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Yes, sir. I wish I could have had a chance to ask my question. Is it not true that this bill would remove the dollar amount on the ballot question, therefore not putting a cap on the amount of funds raised? And is it not further true that this bill would allow counties to raise beyond, if they reach their goal, let's say it's $100 million, it would allow them to raise beyond their stated goal?
Well, in the time that it took you to ask the parliamentary inquiry, you could have walked down here and asked Representative Leverett, and he, I'm sure, would have told you. And if you still want to do that, I'll indulge you a few seconds. What purpose does Chairman Werkheiser rise? He waves. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 934. The ayes are 150, the nays are 8. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 895.
House Bill 895 by Representative Crowe, the 110th and others, to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 16 and Title 17 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to discovery and criminal procedure so as to provide for restrictions of the disclosure of certain personally identifiable information of non-sworn employees of law enforcement agencies. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary and Non-Civil, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Crowe to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, this is House Bill 895. It is a GBI bill. Currently, law enforcement officers, sworn law enforcement officers, are not required to have their personal information, their home address and phone number given out as part of a witness list to the defendant and the prosecution if they are testifying for the prosecution. That same courtesy is not given to non-sworn employees of law enforcement agencies. For example, your crime scene technicians and your crime lab scientists. And all this bill does is seek to give them those same protections, so if they are testifying for the prosecution in a criminal case, they don't have to give out their personal information to the defense. So with that, I will yield for questions, Mr. Speaker.
You have no questions.
Thank you. I yield the will and ask for your favorable consideration.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 895. The ayes are 156, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1232.
House Bill 1232 by Representative Barton of the 5th and others to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 1611-112 and Chapter 2 entitled 40 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to vehicles with false or secret compartments and registration and licensing of motor vehicles so as to revise terminology. This bill having referred to the Committee on Motor Vehicles, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Barton to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, colleagues. This is a bill from the Department of Revenue. The bill cleans up terminology for making it from a temporary license plate to a temporary operating permit. The reason why in the industry, auto industry, new and used, and the Department of Revenue, they call them tops, and this just makes it to where it's consistently together. And that's pretty much it, Mr. Speaker. And if there's no questions, I'll ask for a favorable opinion.
No questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 1232. The ayes are 157, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 725.
House Bill 725 by Representative Lim of the 99th and others to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 44-12-280, the official code of Georgia annotated relating to Council on American Indians Concerned, created membership, assignment for administrative purposes, terms of office. This bill having been referred to the Committee on State Properties and Community Affairs. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by Rules Committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Marvin Lim to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hello again, colleagues. Today I ask for your favorable consideration on HB 725. It's a bill with a slightly different subject matter, but ultimately still one regarding localized self-governance and self-determination, and certainly thus of great importance. As you may or may not know, the state of Georgia has a Council on American Indian Concerns under the Department of Natural Resources, the scope of which, beyond the self-explanatory title, is to ensure proper burial and artifact preservation, to promote cultural heritage, and to support the economic development of our indigenous Americans in the state. What this bill seeks to do is to ensure that the council's membership will always have representation by at least one member from each of our state-recognized tribes, of which we currently have 3, the Georgia Tribe of Eastern Cherokee in North Georgia, the Cherokee of Georgia in the southeast, and the Lower Muskogee Creek Tribe in the southwest. In addition, with the urging of the council and the 3 tribes, the bill updates the codification of the addresses for each of those tribes, as all 3 do have new addresses and have thus requested this information be updated. While this appears clerical on its face, this is very important because oftentimes people do have trouble reaching out and ultimately connecting with them, which was certainly true in my experience during my initial outreach to each of the 3 a few years ago. Given their importance to our history and our need to support their visibility and ultimately their flourishing, it becomes necessary to ensure that in a quite literal sense they can be found. That is what this bill attempts to do, and I'm grateful for the Council on American Indian Concerns and the 3 tribes for supporting and entrusting me with these simple but meaningful updates. I ask for your favorable consideration, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield for any questions.
You do have a question. Do you yield?
I do yield.
Chair recognizes Chairman Darlene Taylor to your left for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
I want to thank you very much for bringing this bill. I do have in my district the Lower Muskogee Creek, and they really appreciate all your hard work on this. Thank you.
And I thank Chairman Taylor for helping sure we got the absolute correct addresses.
No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to withdrawing the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is withdrawn. Is there any objection to adopting the substitute offered by the Committee on Rules? The chair hears none. The Rules Committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 725, the ayes are 156. The nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1391.
House Bill 1391 by Representative Gunner of the 8th and others to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 12 of Title 17 of the official code of Georgia Annotated relating to public defenders so as to revise the compensation of public defenders and assistant public defenders. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary and Non-Civil, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Chairman Gunter to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 1391 raises the pay of the Circuit Public Defender to equal that of the District Attorney. It also bumps the pay of the Assistant Public Defender, which is Category 4, by 5%. So they would receive 95% of the pay of the Public Defender. This isn't done in order to retain better qualified attorneys for that position. And that's basically what the bill's about. It's if we pass the budget, it will be covered in the budget. I'll yield for any questions.
You do not appear to have any.
I yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 1391, the ayes are 156, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1343.
House Bill 1343 by Representative Clark of the 147th and others to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 38-151 of the official code of Georgia Annotated relating to general duties, record seals, and effective seals on documentary evidence so as to eliminate the requirement of the general to publish personal information of commissioned officers of the organized militia. This bill having referred to the Committee on Defense and Veteran Affairs, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Heath Clark to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I have House Bill 1343. It does two things. It removes the requirement in the annual report that the Adjunct General provides to the public that the requirement to list the commissioned officers' names. This is a security concern that they have in today's environment, and also to print and distribute all the laws every year to their units in the Georgia Department of Defense. And currently they have to contract to print and distribute, so this will save money, and they already do they're digitized and they are available to all their units online. So that's the bill, and I will yield for any questions.
You have a couple of questions if you care to yield.
I will yield.
Chair recognizes Chairman Parsons to your left for a question.
Thank you, Speaker. Gentleman, yield.
I will yield.
I apologize, isn't it true, for not asking about this earlier. Just wanted to inquire, does the law apply equally to commissioned and enlisted personnel?
There's no requirement for them to list NCO officers. There's only a requirement for them to list the commissioned officers, and this removes that requirement.
Very good. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I will yield the well and ask for the members' favorable consideration.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to, shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 1343. The ayes are 158, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1438.
House Bill 1438 by Representative Thomas, the 21st, and others being titled an act to amend Chapter 2 and Title 32 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the Department of Transportation so as to amend notice provisions relative to meetings for the election of board members. This bill having referred to the Committee on Transportation. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Brad Thomas to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I present HB 1438. This is Departmental Housekeeping Bill. The bill does 4 things. Section 1, it allows for notification of election of a board member via email, which I'm sure we would all appreciate. Section 2 clarifies the language with a technical correction and replaces request for proposals with request for proposal revisions, which is important because during the proposal process, sometimes the scope is revised slightly. Section 3 provides an additional reference to the authorized rules and regulations of the department governing alternative contracting methods. Section 4, it seeks to make it absolutely clear that no one can abuse the Open Records Act to obtain personal information on our Georgia drivers. And with that, that's the presentation of the bill. I'll yield for one question and then yield the well.
You have no questions?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask for your favorable consideration.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 1438. The ayes are 157. The nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 689.
House Bill 689 by Representative Gaines, the 117th, and others to be entitled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 3, Title 35 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the Georgia Crime Information Center so as to provide that persons who are victims of an offense in trafficking may petition the clerk of court to have sealed certain criminal history record information maintained by the clerk. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary Non-Civil. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Chairman Gaines to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 689 cleans up some important legislation that we passed a couple years ago to protect survivors of human trafficking. This legislation fixes an unintentional statutory requirement that these survivors wait 2 years before asking a court to restrict and seal their offense. Legislature, I don't believe ever intended for that waiting period to apply, and so this ensures that human trafficking survivors are able to immediately have their offense vacated. Mr. Speaker, I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
You do have a question if you care to yield.
I will.
Chair recognizes Representative McLaurin to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I will.
I'll start by trying to immunize myself from the type of admonition the Speaker delivered about asking the author of the bill before doing this. Tried to chase you down on the floor. The concern that I have, and maybe a couple colleagues have, and I'm probably ultimately going to vote yes, I just want to make you as friendly as possible, but I want to understand. If a law enforcement official who comes into possession of restricted information, sealed information, for whatever reason goes rogue, decides to publicize that information, what are the types of penalties or prohibitions in the code section or in the statutes to make sure that there, what's the limitation on using that sealed information improperly?
I don't think that's something that we address in this bill, but certainly I'd be open to looking at something to address that issue. But I don't think that would be something that, I don't think it's addressed in this legislation. I think that'd need to be a separate measure, but certainly open to that.
Okay, I mean, and I guess just to flag it, the concern is just, I assume that what you're doing in line 32, 33 is just codifying what the access that law enforcement agencies already think they have.
That's right. So that in practice, and that's the second part of the measure, is it does allow and clarifies that criminal justice agencies have access to these records. That is already happening under the legislation we passed a couple years ago, Senate Bill 288, that allowed for record restrictions on misdemeanors. They already have access to that, but it's just clarifying it in law. That's correct.
Well, I support your bill, and I appreciate you taking time to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have another question if you care to yield.
I'll yield for one more.
Chair recognizes Representative Jasmine Clark to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I will.
This is actually a really simple question. I just want to make sure I'm reading the same bill. What LC number are you working from?
LC 413032.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll yield the well and ask for the body's favorable consideration on House Bill 689.
Is there any I'm sorry, we had one more member that wished to be heard. Chair recognizes Representative Bazemore to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And thank you, colleagues. Thank you to Representative Gaines. We have been passing extraordinary bills to help our children in human trafficking. And for those of you that may not know, part of my district sits at the busiest airport in the world and over 30 hotels, which is a recipe for human trafficking. And I have been working closely with the First Lady, Marty Kemp, for over 3 years on this issue, and law enforcement and others. So I so appreciate it, and I will be voting for this bill, and I encourage you all to do the same. I yield the well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 689. The ayes are 159, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1004.
House Bill 1004 by Representative Maynard, the 56th and others to be entitled an act to amend Title 20 of the official code of Georgia Annotated relating to education to provide for the establishment of unified campus police forces through agreements entered into by colleges and universities. This bill having referred to the Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Maynard to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, colleagues. This is a really simple bill. In my district is Morehouse, Spelman, Clark, Morris Brown, and several other HBCUs. They're the only consortium in the state of Georgia. And right now, if a crime is happening on one campus, the police on the separate campus cannot cross over into the other person's campus. They have to call 911. So this bill just simply allows the colleges and the AUCC to enter into an agreement, and this has been vetted by the Sheriff's Association. Every college president of these universities also signed a letter of support, as well as the Atlanta Police Foundation. And I would love your favorable support, and I'll yield the will.
Do you yield for any questions? It's up to you.
Who is it?
You know, I've never had anybody ask that question. The representative just looked at me and said, "Who is it?" You gotta love it. And I'm not going to tell you.
I yield the will.
Very intelligent move. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. What purpose does Chairman Martin rise?
A parliamentary inquiry, Mr.
State
Speaker.
your inquiry.
Isn't it true, Mr. Speaker, myself and many of my colleagues could learn from the young lady, the member this morning, in the way she handled that question in the well as the hours get long and the days get longer down here. Isn't that true, Mr. Speaker?
Absolutely. What purpose does Representative McLaurin rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr.
State
Speaker.
your inquiry.
Isn't it true, Mr. Speaker, that given some of the events the last few years, whenever we expand the jurisdiction or the authority of law enforcement that traditionally don't take on a full law enforcement role, that the very least duty that we owe our constituents is to at least apply strict scrutiny and ask why those additional law enforcement powers are necessary to expand?
The gentleman so states. All right, final inquiry. What purpose does Chairman Collins rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr.
State
Speaker.
your inquiry.
Is it not true that this measure is a common sense piece of legislation that will ensure that that consortium of institutions that my colleague in the well spoke about have good public safety and policy to ensure public safety is number one priority in their area?
I am sure the chairman of the committee from which the bill came gave it a full vetting. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 1004, the ayes are 150, the nays are 8. This bill, having received the requisite Constitutional majority is therefore passed. Chair recognizes Chairman Alan Powell for an announcement. Well, while he's coming down, how about Chairman Rich? Come on, let's go. We got meetings to go to at lunch. Chairman Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the members of the Regulated Industry Committee meet over in CLOB 606 immediately upon adjournment for just a short meeting to get a bill moving?
Chair recognizes now Chairman Rich for an announcement.
I'm going to need for you to mark your calendars for this one. Members of the Majority Caucus, we will meet on Monday upon adjournment for lunch, and lunch will be served.
Chair recognizes Caucus Chair Mitchell for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Democratic Caucus will meet via Zoom at 12:30. Lunch will be provided in 6:05 thereafter. Today at 12:30 via Zoom, the usual number. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the Chairman of the House Rules Committee, Chairman Smith, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Rules Committee will meet today at 1:30 today in room 341. Thank you, sir.
Rules Committee meeting at 1:30 this afternoon. This House will be in recess for lunch until 1:40 p.m. 1:40.